So today I'm here and I'm mainly going to tell you my how my thought evolved over time. But let me start by um, a little bit about what I do. So as Melissa said, I am the director of data science at Shopify, and I lead the data teams for the divisions Plus and International. So let me give you a little bit about Shopify. Next slide. So we're the home of over 1 million business owners, and it's a Canadian founded company. We are we are merchant obsessed. We care a lot about enabling our entrepreneurs across the world to grow and to seek and achieve their goals. Um, Next slide. So we were founded in 2006. Today, we have a revenue of about $2 billion. We have $202 billion of sales on our platform. And our million merchants are based in 175 countries. And all of that in an amazing 15 years in starting in Ottawa. And all of this is driven by the data science, supported by the data science team in Shopify. So the data science team in Shopify is about 320 team members, and they are divided into data platform engineers that build us the amazing infrastructure that we use, technical product managers, and data scientists. So I'm mainly here to talk to you about the path for full data, for the path to full stack data science. And I want to start with, as any good researcher would do, the what, the why, the how, and the where. So I'll start with the what. What is data science? 101 research, if you don't know, you start Googling. This is what we do. So if you Google, you find that the definition on Google is it takes an enormous mass of messy data, use their informative math and stats skill and programming to clean and massage and organize the data. Well, this is awesome, but this is how we do it. The truth is, data science is about impact. The truth is, data science is about achieving competitive advantage. Next slide, please. So it powers the companies to be able to have this cutting edge or insight about what's happening in the market and reacting to it. So if you look at the data science trends on Google Trends, you find that in the last 5 years, we've been growing significantly with 12x growth in job titles in machine learning, 190% increase in AI skills on LinkedIn, and 5x growth in data science jobs. But why? Um, why are data scientists needed? Why are all of these companies paying for data science? Well, again, if you don't know, you search. And if you search again, you find a definition of the what, of another what and how, but not really the why. And I've been reflecting a lot on why is data science needed? Why is it going up exponentially in the chart as we saw? So I will share with you something that hit me, although it was very obvious, but hit me really strongly. So I will tell you a story. If I show you a picture, the next slide, please, of this hat, of this, most of you would actually say, if I ask you what is this, most of you will actually be able to say it's a hat with high level of certainty. Most of you. But the truth is, our minds are amazing. There is this book that I came across that's titled "The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat." And let me tell you, if this happens in our household, I'm not going to be very pleased. That being said, this book was written by an amazing researcher and scientist, Dr. Oliver Wolf-Sachs. He's a British neurologist and an author, and his some of his books is world renowned, and actually was known for keeping history of his patients, and some of them were made into movies. So if you are aware of The Awakening, the movie, it was the one from Robert De Niro and Robbie Williams. It's actually the original book was written by him. But the truth is, Dr. Oliver Sacks, although he's very brilliant, he actually did suffer from phase blindness. And the medical name is, excuse me, can we go back? The medical name is oh, I'm not going to pronounce that right, and please pardon me, guys. Prosnopagnosia. I hope I did that fairness. It's a Latin medical term, and the first part means face, the second part means not able to recognize it. And it is a cognitive disorder where, although the visual functions and visual processing is working very well, so you can read, you can see, you can drive, but people who suffer from this medical disorder are having a hard time seeing or recognizing or identifying the person, that they do see the parts of their face. So it's not that they don't see it, they do see it, they just cannot map it into um, into who they are. It's actually very interesting because it's not white and black, it's not binary, it's not you have phase blindness or not. There is actually a spectrum. So there are people who are on the end of the spectrum, which are amazing in face recognizing. I'm sure we all met some of these. And there are people on the other end of spectrum. And if you're like me, this situation happened to you at least once. It's like you met somebody who's like, nice to meet you. Oh, we have met before. Makes it awkward, but that's true. This is something about how our brain processes. So, anyways, that when I started reading this book, it was actually quite interesting to me to start seeing the parallel between what data science do in companies and how our brain functions. So, if we go to the next slide, we're going to start. I'm going to tell you how the flow goes, and I will talk to you about how do I see this mapping. So, if there is an image of a baby in front of you, you get to see lots of stimuli coming to you. So about billion stimuli per second. So it's very high. It's like there's a lot that's coming at you, and then your sensory system will receive these stimuli, and and then starts to process them. And this is where the perception system makes a big um, plays a big role. So the perception system is actually, and bear with me here, is the process of recognizing, which is being aware of, organizing, gathering and storing, and interpreting, which is binding to knowledge, sensory information. There's a lot of parallelism here to what we do, right? So to make that a little bit more concrete, there is no colors in nature. It's only electromagnetic radiations of varying wavelength. So the perception system is the one that translates it to you to a certain model in its head. But then after the perception system does its job, then it informs your higher order cognition functions. And this is when you can make decisions. You can see, you can navigate, you can move forward. So and if you look at this, this is actually a bottom up processing. So this is what they call, actually in neuroscience, data driven processing or bottom up processing. In the same time, there is an opposite way of processing the data, which is called the top down processing or intuition driven processing. And I'm sure all of us at some point woke in the middle of the night with our eyes pretty closed, hardly open, and we were able to navigate everything in on the floor, including all the tables and the furniture, to whether get to the fridge if you're like me, or get to the bathroom, or go grab something. And you did that pretty well, although your eyes and your sensory is not fully activated. And the reason you were able to do that is because you were using the mental model, the model that you have built of the place you live in your head. And there is a high dependency, and I want to call that there's a high dependency between the top down processing and the bottom up processing, because the truth is they all feed into each other. The more we have our understanding of the data and what's happening, the processing of the sensory information, the more we build a better model that we can then function and enhance when data is absent. So as I dug into this more, this is what I learned. And what I recognized is somebody like Dr. Oliver Sacks has the has a problem not with the top down, it was the bottom up processing when it comes to phase bias. So I started mapping this to how I do my job every day. And I realized that data scientists act as the perception system to the organizations to facilitate the recognition of the world. So what we try to do in every day is to get all the data that we have and build a perception model. One slide back, please. A perception model of what what are we seeing? Is this number meaningful? Is it not? And then power the cognition system to make decisions. That applies to recommendation engines. This is what you're doing to viewers in when you're watching a streaming show. You're giving them some options to make decisions on. This applies to different tooling across, from simplistic analytics to all the way to forecasting or higher level advanced techniques. And all of this you're trying to help decision maker or cognitive systems to do better, to make more informed decisions. And I think this is why the data scientist is in demand. This is why people are willing to pay that much money for such a craft, because it does help in better informing whether it's the users or the operations within a company. Okay, so with this, then the true purpose of data science is insight, not numbers, right? Like we're in love of solving the problem itself, not the solution. And if so, I took the quote from Richard Hemingway, and then I looked into, okay, what defines insights? And I looked at the Cambridge English Dictionary, and its descriptive is a clear, accurate, deep, intuitive understanding of a complicated problem. So as you go next slide, please. That means that we need to have a craft and work towards this deep understanding. Next slide. So when you search about what data scientists do, you find this amazing chart that talks about domain knowledge, math, computer science. And this is what we spend a lot of time on. But actually, to drive this intuitive understanding, next slide, you need to recognize that humans retain 80% of what they see, 20% of what they read, and 10% of what they hear. And because of this, we need to invest a part of our time in visualization, and this will drive clarity. Click this. And also, we are humans, we're wired for storytelling. Next slide. And Plato said it best: those who tell the stories rule the society. So, because of that, we need to invest in narrative. Next slide. And the narrative will help us engage our audience, click, as well as explain what's happening inside the analysis that we're doing. Another click, please. And between these three pink circles, which is the change, the engage, the explain, and the clarity, you can drive true change in between all of that. This is when you are able to inform. Next slide. Okay, so this is our holy grail. This is what we want to do. We want to be the perception system. We want to help people make better decisions. And this is how we do it. But where are we now? So again, we looked at research. There is this research that was conducted by 360 Data Science, about 101 data scientists, and they looked at their profiles on LinkedIn and the properties that they have. You find that about 70% of data scientists today are male, usually speaking two language, been in the industry for about 2 years. Data science is relatively new, so this does make a lot of sense. The tools of the craft is R and Python, and about 75% have a graduate degree. Amazing. But as you go search for data science jobs, it's not that simple. Data scientist then is a job title. Then you look at it, you find data analyst, data engineer, chief scientist, ML specialist, ML researcher, ML engineer, data architect, data visualizer, data ecologist. Oh dear Lord, who are we out of all of these? We need to take a deep breath to understand that. So, next slide. So, I will tell you how this all works so that you understand how the landscape is. So, although this is what we do, expertise differs between all these three circles. And based on the spectrum, the titles vary. So, if you go to the next slide. So if you look at that, the ML engineer usually has strong development skills as well as math skills. If you look at the data analyst, they do have math and they have lots of domain knowledge. Um, Data engineer will be between domain and development. DevOps will be heavier on development. Analysts will be heavier on domain, and machine learning will be heavier on the foundation, on the models and understanding of the underlying mathematical foundation of each model. So this is how these titles map. But the truth is, there is a very high interdependency between the different levels of the stack. So if you go to the next slide, you're going to find the data science hierarchy of needs, and you can see that it's actually a pyramid where everything is dependent on each other. If you don't collect the data and you don't log it, you don't have something to be able to build an AI model on. If you don't move it, if you don't clean it, if you don't set it up in a good way, you're not set up for success to build an AI model. Same thing applies to making sure to understand the statistical model of the data distribution that is underlying um, to be able to apply different models. And I see lots of data scientists fall into this trap. They run into applying a certain model, but they didn't gut check or check the statistical distribution of this data before. And then we see all the like skewness and loss of all unbalance in the different things. So as you can see, there is a hierarchy of needs. There is one step that feeds into each other. And if we go to the next slide, we're going to see that if you think of AI as the top of the pyramid of needs, you can think about it as AI being the self actuation, which is amazing and great. And this is what we all live to achieve. But we cannot get there if we don't have the food, the shelter, which is the data literacy, the data collection, and the infrastructure that get us there. So this is why at Shopify and in a lot of teams across the world, full stack data science is the way where people are investing. The reason is there is high dependency between every step and the other. And having only one sliver on it just blocks you because you're waiting for others to be done with their job for you to be able to move forward. So the next slide is the data science journey. So if I think about a small ask, let's say somebody came and asked, had a data request where I want to understand, I want to forecast what's happening in the next quarter. As simple as that. There is a lot of steps that you need to do. So from getting the ask to doing some analysis initially to understand where we are today before we look at some form of forecasting, we need to define what success looks like. Then find out what data is there that you can do this work on. And then you explore and then you analyze and then you do the development and then you do the delivery. And of course, during that time is all the testing and iterations that you get to do. And then after you share that, you might come back with more questions. So because the data science life cycle is not short, the having being blocked at every step of the way just slows you down. And this is why data science, full stack data science is actually something that we are investing a lot in Shopify because it enables you to have the autonomy to work up and down the stack and the hierarchy of needs. And also you get to enjoy from the data collection and the engineering work all the way to the AI models on top. So another way to think about this data science hierarchy of need is shown in the next slide is um, the fact that you start by collect and model your data all the way up to influence, which is influence decision making. So at this point, we're more thinking about the problem that we're trying to solve in that diagram of hierarchy of needs versus thinking about the tool that we use to get us there. So I will end with this. Insights is the thing that drive impact. Data science in its best form is the one that informs, influence, and acts as a perception system that empowers people to make smarter decisions quickly and easily and in a more convenient way. And next slide. Data science is, oh, next slide. One more. So definitely the job of a modern data scientist is not limited to just a quick analysis. The modern data science job spans all the way up to influencing and enabling better decision making. And with that, I say thank you. Feel free to connect with me. Hope you guys all stay well. Thanks.